Assalamu alaikum dear students. I am back again with the second portion of the lesson, your social studies textbook unit number 3, lesson number 6, the impact of technology. You can find it on your textbook page number 135. The lesson objective is learn about the issues around access to water, which we have already discussed in the previous video. Uh, Consider the ways air traffic contributes to climate change. This is today's topic which we will focus, and hopefully at the end you will have an idea that how the air traffic is contributing to the climate change. Here we are with our first important slide, which says that we need to compare and contrast the positives and the negatives of the air travel. Definitely, air travel is fast than the normal means by by cars or by trains. We can cover up long distances in less time. They are comfortable because of the modern facilities available in the aircrafts. They are safe and reliable machines. And although the air travel is costly, but it is manageable because by utilizing the money that you use for traveling, but when you get its end result, you are satisfied that although you paid more money, but you covered a long distance in a less amount of time. So comparing the cost with the product, it can be said that it is not that much costly. But the negatives are alarming actually, although they look few, but they are alarming, and we cannot ignore the negative aspect of the air traffic. The most important negative aspect of the air traffic is that aircrafts are emitting carbons because they burn gasoline, they burn the fuels, which actually causes emission of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, and it creates air pollution, which in the long term actually contributes in global warming. The average temperature of planet Earth has increased alarmingly on a higher numbers as compared to the past. And another negative impact of the global air traffic is that the growing threat of air accidents. More number of aircrafts in the air means that there are possibilities of more accidents, and they are more disastrous as compared to the um, accidents on the ground where the cars are involved, or you can say a small vehicles are involved. At the same time, in a modern world, we are facing a huge threat of terrorism, just like 9/11, where the aircraft can be used as a weapon, and it is one of the biggest threats that we are facing at the moment. So, positives and negatives are all there, but here our consideration is that how we can find the ways where we can minimize the negative impacts, particularly in our atmosphere. So let's move on to the next slide. To know what is the impact of global air travel on the atmosphere, first of all, we need to know that what are the challenges that air traffic is facing at the moment. Um, the slide says that there are bottlenecks in the MENA region. So first of all, you need to know what are the bottlenecks actually. Bottlenecks in aviation world means a safe passage for aircraft to fly through. The more the air traffic is growing, the bottlenecks are increasing in numbers. Mean to say that the safe passage for the aircraft in the air to fly through is shrinking because the more number of aircrafts are flying and they are overcrowding the traffic routes that are being used for the aircrafts. And a small mistake on part of the pilot can cause a big disaster, a big accident, and a loss to human life. Now in MENA region, how it is happening actually, because MENA region is at the middle of the global air traffic route maps. So much aircrafts are passing through its skies, which are going east-west or west-east. So it is facing a sharp increase in the air traffic at the moment, and at the same time global population is also growing at a very high speed, which means that more number of people are being added to the population, and The number of travel journeys by consumers, or you can say by the passengers, are increasing in numbers. More demand for the aviation flights is on the rise. At the same time, the technologies are also evolving. They are improving the air journey, so it is much more attractive for the people to travel by aircraft as compared to the other means, because as we discussed before, it is fast, it is manageable in terms of money, and it is reliable. So people prefer to travel by the aircraft. As a result, the demand for the air journey has increased, which ultimately uh, impacts the higher demand for the more aircraft. Uh, and as a result of this, the more aircrafts mean that there is a more risk of accident and a higher amount of carbons in the air. The more the number of aircrafts are flying in the air means that the number of engines running in the air, they are burning more fuel, and it means ultimately they are adding more carbons in the air, which ultimately calculates in terms of pollution in the air. Here is the map of the Middle East. You can see that Dubai is one of the busiest airport in the region, and Cairo is also one of the busiest in the region, and Jeddah airport also. So many flights are passing through this region, and the more are being added again every passing day. The more number of flights when they are added to already crowded area, it means that there is a possibility of accident at any time. So that is called the bottlenecks. Basically, you can say how it looks very difficult for an aircraft pilot to fly through a densely crowded air traffic area, and anytime it can be a big disaster. So this is one of the challenge that the aircrafts are facing, our aviation all over the world is facing. And at the same time, they have another challenge, that how they can minimize the impact of uh, negative aspect of air technology to the atmosphere. So this is our question: how to minimize the negative impact of aviation technology. Basically, travel by aircraft is no doubt safe and fast, but and not so costly when you take out the end product, that is your journey, and you consumed a certain amount of money to cover a long distance, which is not possible by other means. So in this way, it is not that much costly. But there are an unseen costs that some others pay for your travel, and this others mean the animals, the plants, the birds, and the natural environments of the earth. Basically, you enjoy the journey, but these other factors are being affected. They are important, uh, you can say, characters in your movie of the life. You cannot ignore them. Aircrafts, they contribute huge amounts of carbons in the air when they burn the fuel, adding the carbon footprints. Not only carbon dioxide, but there are other dangerous gases that they emit, which results in air pollution and the long-term global warming. As we discussed before, the average temperature of planet Earth has increased as compared to the past. So this is all because of the amount of carbon dioxide and other dangerous gases that we human beings add in the atmosphere, and air technology is one portion of it. So companies are actually experimenting to minimize this damage to Earth's atmosphere by venturing into new technologies. They are trying to make the technologies more effective and improve their efficiency. By this way, they are trying to help minimize the damage to Earth's atmosphere. The case study of Airbus A380 is one of the example. Uh, Airbus A380 is one of the biggest aircraft, passenger aircraft in the world at the moment. Um, but you would be thinking that if it is a bigger aircraft, it means that it is contributing a huge amount of dangerous gases in the air when it is flying through the air from destinations to destinations. So Airbus is actually coming out with different solutions. Let's move on to the next slide. You will have an idea about how the Airbus is trying to address this issue. For example, Airbus is trying to address the issue by introducing more fuel-efficient aircraft, mean burning less fuel and covering more distance. They have fuel-efficient engines, mean they burn the same amount of fuel, but their output has increased by improving the level of technology. For example, the engine of 1940s was giving us a less output by burning same amount of fuel that we have an engine burning a same fuel amount today. So when we compare the two engines of today and past, the output is very different. So the Airbus is trying to introduce those kinds of engines that can burn less fuel and give us more efficiency. They are trying to bring the quieter engines in order to minimize the noise pollution, because noise is also one of the type of the pollution that is contributing. At the same time, another idea is to bring the larger aircraft, means that they can carry more number of people. More number of people in one aircraft mean that number of flights will be reduced, and the fuel consumption will also be decreased, because if the aircraft is bigger and is using a bigger engine, but at the same time the technology is being improved to make it more fuel efficient. So less number of aircraft in the air mean more number of people are carried from place to place. Less number of flights mean that less amount of carbon emitted in the atmosphere. Another way is to make the aircraft lighter, because when the aircraft will be lighter, the burden on the engine will be reduced, so it will be uh, burning less amount of fuel for a heavier aircraft. By this way, they are adding composite materials in the aircraft's bodies, which make the planes light, and as a result, it reduces the burden on the engine. When a light plane carrying 380 people, for example, or 400 people is flying through the aircraft, the burden on the engine will be less if the same number of people are placed in an aircraft that has no composite materials. So basically, the solution is composite materials. They are modern materials created in a way that are lightweight and that are reliable, that are more strong. By this way, they minimize the impact of uh, running engine on the air around our Earth. So that's the basically the concept that we needed to discuss, that how the global air traffic is impacting and how the companies are trying to address this issue, that how we can minimize the impact of the negative impact of air travel to our atmosphere. I hope this will help you to understand the topic. We will come back with a new lesson in next week. Thank you very much. See you soon.